Right, here we go. I was going to try and do a live one for you. One or two of you saw the live video on Friday, but it doesn't work, unfortunately, on my laptop. It just slows everything up, and it's no good, unfortunately. So I'm going to do the normal Saturday preview on a video, and it should be available sort of 6 p.m. tonight once I've done this. It's just before 1 o'clock now on Friday afternoon. And as I say, I wanted to sort of keep my hand in because I've not done a video for quite a while. So I'll do one for the Daily Punt for Saturday, and then next week, if I'm lucky enough to get to Epsom, I have put in to try and get to Epsom. I don't think I'm going to get accreditation, but still, if you don't ask, you don't get. If I get to go to Epsom next week, then I'll do a couple of videos from whatever far-flung travel lodge I find myself in. So it's really just sort of keeping my hand in on what is effectively quite a quiet Saturday tomorrow. It's not one of the big ones. Beverley and Haydock probably take centre stage. Hillary Needler in the 2-year-old race at Beverley, and there's some decent races at Haydock. I'm not entirely sure they're all betting contests. And from my perspective, of course, we've got Cartmel, which is quite an interesting little card. First of 3 days at Cartmel. As ever, it's the Saturday, Monday, Wednesday. They have a day off in between, so that they can all eat sticky toffee pudding all the time, or something, I don't know. I'll run through the Cartmel card quickly, because I think there's a couple of bets on it. Kick off with ironically enough, the sticky toffee pudding novices hurdle at 105, where I want to take on Geronimo. I'll probably just lay Geronimo, I think, the more I sort of think about the race. Gladiatorial looks the more likely of the two to stay on what promises to be drying ground as well. It's currently good to soft. It'll dry out to good, I think, by tomorrow at Cartmel. And you can give One Fine Man a chance as well. He's in receipt of £6 off the top two, and he wasn't done with when he came down at Weatherby last time. All of which sort of adds up to a lay of Geronimo if he's anything around about the 6 to 4, 13 to 8 mark for me. Then we've got a mare's handicap hurdle, which it's worth pointing out, I suppose, this is a 0 to 135 class 3 race. Top in is C the C of 124, £11 below the ceiling. This is only really a class 4 race for the money, and as such, it's quite open. I was half tempted with Calliope down the bottom, but I don't think she's up to this class. She flatters to deceive too many times, and I'd want a bigger price than she's currently been put in at. Hills have priced it up and put her in 9 to 2. I don't think that's right. I think she should be bigger than that. And in all honesty, I was hoping she'd be put in as the outsider. I'd have been more interested then, but I don't think there's a bet there at present. The 3 mile, 1.5 furlong chase that follows looks quite open. It's one of these, who's up for it today type chasers. And I said, Hitman Fred's an obvious one, because he's progressing quite nicely. Won 2 of his last 3. Will stay. Ground will be fine. He's obvious. I sort of ended up settling, and I'd want a lot bigger than the 10 to 1 that Hills have put in. That's a comedy price for Sackett of Neil Kings, who on his one go round Cartmel, you've got to go back a few years, but on his one go round Cartmel, won a length round here over course and distance. He needs it his own way, Sackett, and you can see that from his form figures. Pulled up, first, third, pulled up. He's not an each way bet, even if he drifts out to the price that I'm looking for, and I'm looking at 20 to 1 as a minimum for Sackett, given that record. But he might get his own way here. I'm struggling to find. There's a lot that like to sit near the pace, but not on the front, and only Sackett does. If Max Kendrick can get him out the gate and get him into a rhythm, and that is a big thing with Sackett, you've got to get him into a rhythm. If he hits fences, he'll just jack it. Sackett will jack it. He'll jack it in. He's a real all or nothing animal. But if they can get him into a rhythm, he might be hard to pass. If he's still in front 2 out, I think he might win. But it's where he'll be 2 out. 2 out, he might be pulled up. So, but as I say, Hills have put him in at 10 to 1, which I guess is a price that's straight out the Beano, because he can't be a 10 to 1 chance. He got to be double that and probably a bit more, and then I'm interested. 245, beginner's chase, pass. No real interest in this. I don't think there's only the 6 runners, and I don't see it as a betting medium. The 320 is a 2 mile 5 handicap chase, and this is a bit more interesting. My first reaction was you sort of go to what you know with Cartmel, and your first reaction is Damien's Dilemma, who's had a short break. He's coming back off a near 50-day break. Loves it round Cartmel. His record round here is fantastic. I think he's won 3 times and been placed 3 times from 7 starts. So on that alone, he's got to be of interest. But he's another one that likes to be on the front, and he might have some company here with my mate Bob, who tried to make all at Hexham last time. On saying that, of course, my mate Bob is stepping up in trips, so maybe they will just ride him. Maybe they'll just ride him in behind. There's plenty of others again. It's another one of these that you can give chances to. Top weight Outcrop hasn't run very well around here in a couple of starts, but Jenny Canish is just coming back to form now after a bit of a spell in the doldrums. She's had 2 or 3 winners in the past couple of weeks, and he's more than capable in this sort of class Outcrop. So if he's on a going day, he's a chance. I mean, Alfendor's been put in 7-2 favourite by Hills now. Then I wouldn't touch Alfendor around it. There's more races to be won with Alfendor. Don't get me wrong. He's gone to Tim Reed, and Tim immediately, won with him at Ayr, and he won at 50s. So he probably wasn't expected to win, but he did. And there are more races to be won with Alfendor, but he's a big thing, and I'm not sure. I don't think Cartmel's his track. And if you watch him at Ayr, he climbs the first, he climbs the second, and he finds himself out the back. And if he does the same round here, if he's struggling early, he'll just get out of pace and get tailed before the gears start kicking in. There's every chance that he's going to bounce off of the back of that Ayr run, which came after about a 15-month absence, something around those lines. So there's every chance he'll bounce. I'd be half tempted to place like Alfendor. And the one I sort of settled on in the end, from if you're looking for something to win, might be No Mac. Again, listen, you're going to want 16, 20 to 1, and I don't think he's an each-way bet. He doesn't win very often, but he's all right around Cartmel. He's run a couple of decent races around here. And if you go back to his effort at Hexham back in March, where he got beat under 3 lengths by Cash again, off a mark of 90, he's off 84 tomorrow. He's £6 lower than that. That's an all right run. That's a run that puts him right in the mix. Since then, he's run poorly twice. He went to the front at Perth last time, and he rather gave up a bit too quick. And there's always the worry that's what he's going to do again. But he's on a good mark. He's not out of this. No Mac. He's got to be on a going day again. Just because it's a big price, it doesn't mean it's an each way bet. I think it's probably a win only bet. Then we come to one of the better races at Cartmel over the 3 days. This is a Class 2 handicap hurdle over. It's 3 mile, 1.5 furlong, and it's Sebastopol I think is now a non-runner, which is a shame because he was an angle to go against. I've not seen anything that suggests that Sebastopol wants as far as this. To be perfectly honest. You've got the likes of Del Arca and Ask Henry who are going to be among the favourites for it. It looks open. I mean, there's only 9 runners, but it's going to be about 4 to 1 the field. Both of them come here in good form, obviously. Del Arca, after his win at Haydock, where we rolled back the years, the handicap has been very sensible with that and put him up £2, which is quite right. So he's still got a chance. The one I like here, and I think this is one of the better bets on the card, I think, at Cartmel tomorrow, is the 2 horse here, Just a Tenner, for Tristan Davidson. He's coming back off a break. We haven't seen him since January. Now, he's 2 runs after a break. One is moderate. In the last 2 years, effectively what's been his seasonal debut. One of them was moderate, but last year he ran pretty much to form. He got beaten 10 lengths at Utoxeter in a Class 2 handicap by Yes, No, Maybe So, and ran to form that day. So the fact that he's coming off a break isn't a worry. I think the ground, I don't want it to completely dry out, and I don't think it will. I think there'll be enough juice in it for Just a Tenner. He's all right on good ground. He doesn't want it any quicker than that, and I don't think it will be. They're calling it, I think he's good to soft in places at the moment at Cartmel. It is going to dry back a bit, and there is a bit of rain around in that neck of the woods, according to the forecast, so it shouldn't dry out too much. The interesting thing with Just a Tenner is he'll be held up off the pace. Now, normally horses that are held up off the pace with a hood on need a good gallop. He doesn't. He doesn't need a good gallop. In fact, a fairly moderately run race will suit Just a Tenner down to the ground. When he wins, his speed figures come out pretty moderate. They're all in sort of, not slow necessarily slowly, but slowly to moderately run races. He doesn't need an end-to-end gallop to come off. And with that, I think he'll get that tomorrow, because I don't see where the pace comes from. It's hard to see who is going to take this out. And I think that'll suit just a tenner. The mark's probably as high as you'd want. It's £1 higher than his last win at Ayr last October. So it's workable, but he needs things to go right. But he'll be putting one of the outsiders here. And Tristan Davidson is a trainer I haven't a lot of time for. He knows exactly what he's doing, and the two that he's had a run in the last couple of weeks have both run well. Per the Qatar, that was narrowly touched off, and Nass Paddington ran at Aintree and he ran well too. So there's a lot to like. Hopefully we'll get 10 to 1 about just a tenner. I think he's got a decent chance. And then we finish up with a handicap hurdle that I tried looking at. It's over 2 mile 6. I went around this about 3 or 4 times and came up with nothing. Nothing at all. So I'm happy to pass that one over as well. Instead, let's look at one or two of the other races. The two-year-old races at Beverley, which I've covered off on the I've covered one of them off on the Sporting Life with Rory. We are leaning towards Jazzy Princess in the Hillary Needler at 2 o'clock. First time up for Robert Carroll for the Cool Silk Partnership, and they target this race. They've won it twice. I think they won 2 of the past 3 runnings, and on the other occasion with Moon of Love, that was third to Liberty Beach, which was hardly a bad run. So they tend to line one up for this, and the sire of Jazzy Princess, Prince of Lear, won the 2-year-old race, or the other 2-year-old race that's on this card back in 2016. I hope I haven't confused you too much. So this is a meeting that the Cool Silk Partnership like to have a winner at, and it could be Jazzy Princess. They've got another one in the 2-year-old race later on the card. I think one of them will win, but I do like 16 to 1 about Jazzy Princess in that 2 o'clock. I think I could see 1 or 2 latching onto her and a price shortening up a little bit overnight. The 2:35. Now then, 1.5 mile furlong handicap. I've spoken to my good friend and colleague, Mr. Rory DeLargy, this morning, and he had about 6 stabs at this before he could find. There's only 9 in it before he finally guessed which one I quite liked. And when I said it was 3 Saints Bay, he nearly hung up on me. It can't be 3 Saints Bay. It can't be that one. But as I have demonstrated ably to him, 3 Saints Bay you wouldn't trust 3 Saints Bay as far as you could throw him. He doesn't win very often, but my goodness me, he travelled like a tank last time at Ayr. He really cruised through the race. He went so well behind Hong Kong Harry, and at the furlong pole I thought he was going to win. He's actually stuck onto it. He hasn't given up. Normally he sort of he doesn't really want to go, but actually he stuck his neck down. He stuck his head down and galloped on quite willingly, I thought, at Ayr last time. I thought that was his 3rd run back this season after his break. I thought he looked about ready to win. The mark's absolutely fine. The ground will be fine for him. It's currently soft heavy in places. I would think it'll dry back to soft, good to soft tomorrow at Beverley, if they get the sunshine today and tomorrow. He'll get this run to suit. There's a bit of pace in it. Whatever you do with 3 Saints Bay, I think he's probably an each way bet. Hopefully, with it being a telly race, some daft bookmaker might go 4 places on this, and that'd be nice if they do, because I don't think he'll be out the 4. The trip's a slight concern. He is a course and distance winner, so it's a bit of a daft thing to say the trip's a slight concern, but for the majority of the past sort of 12 months, they kept him to 7 furlongs. And Rory's of the opinion that that's because they know he's got a problem and he can't finish his race off. I'm less convinced. I actually think the trip will suit him tomorrow. So we'll see. As I say, we've agreed to disagree on it really, but I think 3 Saints Bay as an each way bet, and if you're playing on the exchanges, is a definite back to lane. Make sure you put him in short, something around about sort of 6 to 4, even money somewhere in there to get your stake back in a bit more as well, because if he travels like he did at Ayr, he'll be there at the furlong pole, and then it's just what he does from that point on. Are there any other races at Beverley that's worth a look? I think we had a quick look as well at the 3:45. This is a 7.5 furlong handicap, 0 to 95, although the topping's only 90, so it's £5 below the ceiling. There's a couple of obvious ones. Well, there's one particularly obvious one down the bottom in Sibak. Mark Johnson. But Mark Johnson is 2 from going into Friday's racing. I mean, you know, he might have a winner or 2 today, I don't know. But going into Friday's racing, he's about 2 from 65, I think, in the last fortnight. They're hardly banging him in. Look, it's obvious Sibak, you know, course and distance winner last time. I think he'll be okay on the ground. He gets the 3-year-old allowances. He'll probably go off around about the sort of 9 to 4, 5 to 2 chance. But I thought Give It Some Teddy again looked an each way bet to nothing really. He's coming back to form. He's another one that's had 3 runs this season, and he looks to be about peaking after his half length. He got beaten in basically a 4-way go at Carlisle last time. Tangled won the race, but he finished 4th, almost alongside him, got beaten half a length. That was his best effort. He's now back with Tim Easterby after a spell with Stuart Williams. And so Tim knows the horse well. He's won off this very mark with him in the past. Uphill finish will suit him as it did at Carlisle. Ground should be ideal. I thought he looked an each way bet to nothing really. Give It Some Teddy. If you can get anything around about the 6 to 1, 13 to 2 mark, he'd be a bet for me. And over at Haydock, I keep looking at this 6-furlong handicap at 145, and I don't know. There's 1 or 2 of these that's clearly getting lined up for future 7-furlong handicaps, and with the likes of Cold Stare, I've got one eye on for the Bunbury Cup next month. I think he'll go close. Royal Context is another one that's quite interesting, stepping up to 6 furlongs. There's definitely more races to be won with him off of that mark this season. But I thought Punch Bowl Flyer, who's a horse that if we're going right back in the day, I think I put him on an eye catches after about 2 runs, and so I think he'll make a nice sprinter, and he is making up into a nice sprinter now. Ground will be spot on for him. He wants a bit of cut. He was well on top at Windsor at the finish. I thought he made every yard of the run in there. Never looked like getting caught. Obviously, it's going to be harder to make all tomorrow, but handicapper was sensible enough with a £5 rise. I still think there's more to come from Punch Bowl Flyer, and I think at this stage he'd be my first pick. There we go. Best bet tomorrow. I hope it's just a tenner at Cartmel. I think he's got a really good chance. Got a lot going for him. And as I say, the early shows put him in at 8. I think we might get a little bit bigger than that. So I'd be very hopeful on. I'd be very hopeful on just a tenner running a good race towards the end of the card at Cartmel. There we go then, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will probably be back, as I say, next week. It'll either be the written Daily Punt again, or if I'm at Epsom, then I might do a couple of videos. All right. Thanks a lot. Speak to you all again soon. Bye.